Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of On Point. As usual, we have some of the best and brightest minds in Liberia
Hello,
discussing
ladies and
issues.
gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of On Point.
You got feedback.
We
Somebody
had it
has,
feedback.
uh, please turn.
Go. You good?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here with us another time, another Sunday. You could have been doing something else, but you are here to discuss issues affecting us. We talk about current event in Liberia. With me are my co-hosts, Mr. George Tule, the unabashed defender of Joseph Yuma Waikai. And with me is our other analyst, Mr. Michael Padmore, and Jimmy Eastman from the nation's capital. Gentlemen, how are you doing? How is the family? And how are you feeling today about this show? Tule, we begin with you.
Yeah. It's nice being back. I was away last Sunday. I had to be in another city, so I'm home today, and I'm back on the shore, and I'm so glad to be here. It's a nice opportunity to speak to the issues that are germane, to borrow your word, germane to Liberia. And I want to say welcome to all those who have tuned in and those who are going to tune in to, hear our exchange of ideas. And this place is a good place. So I want to say welcome to everyone. Welcome to my co-discussants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padmore, man, from 10,000 Lakes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jerome. Today is actually Mother's Day in Liberia. So I want to give a shout out to all our mothers, all our Liberian mothers especially. Happy Mother's Day. And I'm glad to be here today. It's always exciting to join you guys to have a spirited discussion about our one love Liberia. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And let's go to the nation's capital, Mr. Eastman.
Welcome out there in Radio Land. We're so happy to be here this evening. Our country is taking new turns. We're at the cusp of a change. By next year, we'll be holding very important elections, and it's also an inflection point in our economy. As we see on the world stage, we are facing inflation, and that, of course, will inadvertently affect our progress. So, what steps we need to make now to line our ducks in order is very important. So, this is a great opportunity to talk about some of these things, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, we promise you that we'll discuss issues that are germane or very important or critical. We'll talk about current events in Liberia. We want to begin with, first of all, what do we make of the testimony of Ambassador Joseph Waikai at the Temple of Justice? We've been hearing a lot of stuff. We've been seeing a lot of stuff. We are going to delve into that. Number 2 on this list, as we all know, is in Liberia, we have. I'm still having a feedback, but that's okay. We are going to be looking at another issue that has to do with the road funds. Lately, we've been hearing, or we just heard, based on the audit report, that a huge sum of money that was put aside for the development of roads were used for other purposes within the government. I mean, there was a different line item. We're going to be looking at that. We are also going to be looking at the trip of Mr. Gonglo. I mean, some people think that Mr. Gonglo's trip have not risen to the level of discussion at this level, but we got to give him his props. He's he's attempting to run to be the leader of Liberia. We need to look at that. And then finally, we are going to be looking at, when you look at the Liberian embassy from the outside, the deplorable condition that we saw, what could be the cause or causes of our embassy? If nothing else represents us, is our embassy. Who are responsible for the embassy? Where is the ambassador to have our embassy looks so deplorable from the outside? So let's get going here. Mr. Thule, let's start with Ambassador Joseph Waikai and the ongoing saga with the lawsuit, counter lawsuits, his denial of comings that he's never known comings before. Some folks are saying that he lied on an oath. Did he perjure himself when we have some evidence that he and comings go all the way back?
No, they really don't go all the way back. The reality is that the two of them are prominent Liberians, and they being me being acquainted with you doesn't mean that I really know you. Just to be able to stand up and say I know you. I mean, knowing somebody means I know the man to the point that I can vouch for his character. Now let's go to the issue of his testimony. You know, that is the most important thing for me. That's the most germane thing. One of the things he said was they asked him about the their chat room, and when he was chair, or before he even became chair, when other people were leading the thing, and what kind of information was transmitted on the WhatsApp chat group, and he said that he doesn't use WhatsApp for the transmission of serious, sensitive information, and people started they went and created. I mean, they made an article in the front page Africa, and they use screenshots of him using WhatsApp to arrange meetings. And the question here is arrangement of meetings. Is it the same? Does it hold the same level of sensitivity in terms of message transmission as really sending forth sensitive information? And I said something. I said the fact that the screenshots of communication within that chat room could be put on in the news when that chat room was filled with only eminent persons in our country validates his point that you cannot use WhatsApp to transmit any sensitive information. It is not about the encryption technology of WhatsApp. That's not what it's about. It's about security. Because no matter how strong your cipher is, if you don't have strong measures in place to minimize, and also not only to minimize, but to control who have access to the information, how they have access to the information, it's as good as your cipher not being there at all and you just writing in plain text. That's just what it is. Because I give you a common example. We look at the intelligence agencies. You cannot enter any important room in the U.S. Embassy or in the State Department or anywhere else with your phone. You got to leave your phone outside. You have to leave your phone outside. And apart from that, because I don't care how good the cipher or the technology, the encryption is, who controls the message when it gets to the receiver? Who controls it? And I was telling somebody, I said, to the point now, information or transmission is so important and security is so important right now that, for instance, the company I work at, we use express route, okay, to when we are dealing with Azure services. We use express route. What that means with the given is we don't use the internet, as it were, the open net. Okay, we use an express route to get to Azure. So you can tap us, you can hack us because you don't have access to that particular route. That route is dedicated, it's peer-to-peer, and it's not public, it's private. There's a reason for that. It's so important. It's not just about the transmission of the information, but what happens at the other end. Now we know Azure is very safe. So if I want to use Azure, for instance, Teams, I can put all my files on Teams and everything on Teams because I know that team is only within my company. Nobody else have access to that team. That's the reason why I'm saying it. So if the man, and again, before I stop quickly, the man was vice president for 12 years. I went to see him when he was vice president. I couldn't even carry my phone into his presence. That's the truth. I had to leave my phone outside with the security guards to go to see him and talk to him. In a very short situation, means information security. The government would not allow that old man to send information, any kind of sensitive information by any means online or on his phone. So when he says and say, I can't use it for transmitting sensitive information, he knows what he's talking about.
Okay, Mr. Padmore here. Uh,
Yeah.
Mr. Tule is doing as much as he can to
Oh my
shield
God.
this old man. Some people are saying, Mr. Tule, Mr. Padmore, when you talk about octogenarian, the guy is old. He doesn't know anything about texting. He doesn't know anything about social media. Sometimes he's on there. He doesn't know he's on there. He didn't know that he can publish, that other people have access to it. What says you, Mr. Padmore Charming here?
I think that was just a long whole lot of talk about nothing just now. It's very simple, okay? The woman is living in a different age. All right. Information technology right now is heightened. Everybody uses different sources of media to get things across. And WhatsApp is one of the most secure transit line to use those things. Of course, depending on who is attached to it or who is on the receiving end, that is the same for any medium that you use. It doesn't matter. You can even if I'm giving you information face to face, if you on the other end are receiving it and you have some sort of deviant behavior, it will get out. We've seen that before. We saw it with the Supreme Court of the United States that was working on the Roe v. Wade case. We saw that come out. That had nothing to do with the method of transportation. It was who had access to it. The fact of the matter here is that Joseph Burger is not comfortable using present day medium of exchange. It's as simple as that. The man he's archaic, all right? And it just showed, because let's not lose sight of how this came about. All right. Joseph Walker was being questioned concerning the document. And if he had read the document, that was where the question came from. Because one party is saying that when the documents came back from the lawyer, it already had that phrase in it, the departure clause. Joseph Walker was being questioned concerning the departure clause. Did you read the document? And man said he didn't even open the document. Why didn't you open the document? Because the document was sent to me on WhatsApp. I don't use WhatsApp. That's where the whole thing came from.
No, he didn't say don't
He did not read the document. Did he request it in another form? Did Joseph Boyka, when he stated that, I don't read WhatsApp, I don't use WhatsApp, did he officially request it in a different form? No, he didn't.
He didn't say he doesn't use WhatsApp.
When the first meeting was held, May 19, wasn't it held on Zoom? Now all of a sudden now you can hold a meeting on Zoom, but you can't receive document on WhatsApp. This is all just flimsy excuses that the woman you see that all the time coming from him with different things, which is really, really questionable about what are his motives. Is he really being sincere? I think it just showed that no, he's not. He expected other people to read a document. He expected other people to digest the document. He expected other people to do the work because he is not up to the task anymore. And that is what the Liberian people need to see. He is no longer up to the task.
Mr. Eastman, the vice president said he didn't use WhatsApp. In some instances, he said he don't remember the phrase, the exit clause in there. In the same breath, he was asked whether he's actually familiar or he knows Cummings, and he said he doesn't know Cummings. And people are saying the old man is slipping or he has slipped. His memory has forsaken him. He's losing his memory. He said he doesn't know this man, but we got him on tape saying years ago he came to Atlanta to meet with Cummings, to encourage Cummings to get involved in Liberian politics. And he was actually present when Ellen bestowed the highest honor of our Liberian citizenship on him, and they have been in this for the past 12 years. All of a sudden, he said he doesn't understand this man. What did he perjure himself? Some say while he was on the witness stand.
You know, this whole saga is very interesting. Sometimes you hear of falsification, sometimes you hear of forgery. And generally speaking, the most it can ever be is gross misconduct. Now, the vice president is nearly 80 years old. And somebody that aged, you know, that advanced in age may tend to have some lapses in memory. And even to especially short-term memory, even to recollect where he might have left his keys may be difficult. But until we come out with any biological or physical examination that will say he's not competent to hold the role, we shouldn't be accusing him of such. But what we do know is that the group has failed themselves. What they are going through will defeat all of them. And we don't understand why somebody like Ambassador Waikai, with the wisdom and the knowledge and the foresight that he claims to have, would not have avoided this. It is almost ludicrous that two people you go get together to accomplish a goal, and before you can even embark on it, you are already at each other's throats. It's a waste of our government's time. I wish they did to dismiss all the cases, but if the Liberian people want to trust such a group, then they'll be putting their nation at risk.
Great. Is okay, Mr. Toole is not here. Mr. Padmore, before we go to the next one here, let's look at this.
I'm here, Mr. Gilman.
Okay.
I needed to respond.
Yeah. Come here. I want you to respond to this. Are they all into that one about this? The vice president denying knowing Mr. Cummings. You can wrap all that into one.
Yeah, but the first thing is my friend come up and say I use a lot of words to say nothing. That's a slight and an insult, and I'm getting used to it coming from him, because instead of him going to address the question you pose him, he wants to he won't battle away with me. So I prepare for it. You know me, I don't back down. I love my member, I got crew blood. So let's go ahead. You see, the reality here is this. Mr. Gilbert, don't laugh. It's the reality. Yeah. From the time I was small, I'm bad from fight. He knows. He must estimate 2 years in class. So he knows I don't back down from no fight. But the reality here is this. Mr. Eastman. The main person, the main catalyst behind this CPP was Charles Bromsky. Because he felt that for the opposition to do something, they had to come together. And unfortunately, he died. And along with his death, when that calmness, that stillness, and that sensibility in the midst of turmoil to bring peace into situations, it went away. But that's not why the CPP failed, Mr. Eastman. Let me tell you this thing today. You may say, "Oh, where's your proof?" I don't have proof, but I will tell you the proof will come up in due course. Madam Salif, I will say it again, made her mind up that Joseph Boga would not be president. And then she was able, through calculation, and the fact is that Liberian people, we are gullible because we're so broke that anybody who comes with money is always given the chance to do whatever. People assemble around you. So we see the Benedict story, his alignment with Cummings, and Madam Salif, all the different machinations, the equal machinations in the background caused the CPP to be where it is today. Does Joseph Boga know Cummings? He knows him from a very public knowing. He doesn't know him like you know a friend, Mr. Eastman, somebody that you have spent time with that you know you can vouch for. So when somebody asks you in court, do you know this man? Okay, I can tell you, I said, no, I don't know the man. All right, I'm only acquainted with him. We have met in public spaces, but we're not friends. So I don't know him as in knowing. Also, Mr. Gaiman, before I give it back to you quickly, the issue of the transmission of, you can say whatever you want to say. Let me tell you something. When you are president, when you vice president for 12 years, Mr. Eastman, you don't do a lot for yourself. That's just the reality. You don't do a lot for yourself. So for 12 years, you have a whole office staff, from chief of staff to different advisors and different consultants working under you that do everything for you. So if you say the document, the framework document went out and something was added to it, it wasn't only him that did not notice this thing. Bernard Ure didn't notice it. Yom Dikanga did not notice it. Do you know, I've heard, it may not be true, but I can tell you the veracity of this is very, very high. It was someone from NEC that told Ben Ure what happened to that document. That the document went to NEC, and after it was received by NEC, it was withdrawn from NEC, and additions were made to the document. And because additions were made to the document was how you call it, was notarized afresh and sent back to NEC. It was someone who told Ben Ure, he wasn't privy to it, he wasn't aware of it, that foul had been committed. That's why he filed that lawsuit, even though they have publicly said they were leaving the CPP. So Mr. Pablo can come here and say whatever he wants to say. It doesn't change the fact that Mr. Cummings have shown a lack of judgment. Have also shown the lack of credibility. Mr. Cummings have shown not only the lack of judgment, the lack of credibility, the lack of trustworthiness. People cannot trust you because when you come into an agreement with people, why your only focus is to use sleight of hand to gain mastery. When you are that kind of individual, we will see it all over the place. And guess what? And this is now Cummings' original plan. This is his actions were telegraphed by his association. Cummings' association with Bility has become his undoing. And watch it. It will erase his political life in Liberia. That agreement he has with Bility is a very, very dangerous agreement.
Mr. Padman.
Yeah, but Mr. Tule, let me inject a little bit. The whole issue, let's say this thing did occur. There was some changing in the document.
Mm-hmm.
When something happens, if you wanted to have a solvable solution, you approach it in a certain way.
Yeah.
In other words, if you spill a glass, the solution is to wipe up the whatever you spilled.
Mm-hmm.
If you start going by accusing a person, this thing happened before, and this, when will it ever stop? And you are this type of person, you have now caused an identity issue with this person. You have now exploded the issue into something completely different. Now the person has to defend the identity, not the fact that it's just an error or mistake. Mm-hmm. So it was blown out of proportion and accused one of their collaborators, one of the friends who came together, that now the person has to defend their identity and it becomes a crisis. This is what has happened. Mm-hmm. Now, had they been on the same wavelength to accomplish a goal, they wouldn't have let this happen. They would have introduced a mechanism that they could have solved this problem without causing the identity crisis that they have today.
Okay, Mr. Gaiman, let me just say 2 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead, real quick.
Okay, yeah, 2 seconds. Mr. All this would have been good if they had not allowed this thing that Mr. Gaiman, 4 of us are here, and Mr. Gaiman can come into your political arrangement to canvass for vote. He can come into my political arrangement to canvass for vote. He can go into this man's political arrangement to canvass for vote. I told you the last time here, I am not a purveyor of foulness, but I'm also telling you that particular allowance in the framework agreement was the foundation for problem, and they should not have allowed it. Everybody go, even if you want do it on, do it on covers. And then you get there. If you manage to sway far from me, far from Gayman, far from the other person, fine. But for me to say I can come into Gayman's house and use whatever means I can use to turn his children against him, it's a recipe for problem, and that's what we are.
Mr. Padmore, I see this thing here. This man is going for the red meat. There's something about Cummings that urge these guys, especially the Unity Party and Joseph Waikai folk. What is this about Cummings, man? Tell me. Why you doing to this old man?
Cummings has a way of showing he is the future. Cummings has a way of showing leadership that attract people to him. Okay? Look, the thing here is very simple. Let's just assume that Mr. Tule has an ounce of truth what he is saying, that ANC might have gone after officers from different parties. Why would you want an officer in your party who doesn't believe in you, who doesn't want to be with you and want to be in the next person party? You would tell them good riddance. You would tell them good riddance. Okay? So that whole thought process does not make sense. The second thing is that it's very simple. Look, when the CPP was put together, it was agreed that at a certain point, we're going to go to primaries. And delegates from each party will come together. They will be lobbied by everybody, and then they will go and vote. If I already have support in your party, and people who most likely will be delegates, who are officials, will be delegates, why would I want to bring them onto my side prematurely? Why can't they stay in your party if I know I've already won them over? Why can't they stay in your party so when we go to the convention, they're going to vote for me? They don't add up. It doesn't add up, okay? People came over because they saw leadership in Cummings and they wanted to come over. You don't deny those people their rights to associate with who they want to associate with. Look, the CPP was together for many, many months. We went to elections together. We did many things together. As soon as they say the time is approaching for convention, all of a sudden UP have problem. All of a sudden UP had to get out of the CPP. You won't go? Go. ALP said they were leaving. Then the US said he was gone. He issued his release and said he was no longer part of the CPP. Then why take Cummings to court?
Because he's a fraudster.
Why get Cummings involved in court? Why not just leave? Just leave. Just go.
Okay,
but this has always been an attempt not to leave the CPP. This has always been an attempt to somehow cripple Mr. Cummings so that Mr. Cummings doesn't have the free path to compete. And I will continue using that word compete, because compete is a demonic word when it comes to the UP and others.
Oh, like the way you want that.
Mr. Tule land. Okay, guys,
they
now
do not
listen.
want to compete, they want to coronate.
Okay.
And that is not going to happen.
Okay, now wait.
Let me ask a question.
Mr. Tule.
Let me ask you one question.
No.
Who competed against Cummings when he won the Mr. Eastman? Please help me here. Who competed against Cummings when he won the candidacy for ANC? I want to know.
Okay, Mr. Mr. Eastman, go ahead. Go ahead, because you're the referee here.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear of any primary.
So
there was a primary. There was a primary.
Oh,
okay. Well, and who were the people involved in the primary?
There was a primary announced. There was a date open for candidates, and nobody else placed their name in the race. Unlike UP, that did not have UP did not at any time have a primary. UP did not even announce a primary. UP made one statement: "We carry Waikai, and that's it."
Okay, Mr.
That's the
East,
difference. That's
Mr.
the
Eastman, let me
difference.
say something to you today. This is where you will learn to know me. You got pretense and you got reality. You poor Joseph Boga, you go and now Mr. Gamer go to UP, find money and say I want whole primary. Joseph Boga name on the list, and who else won't contest against Joseph Boga in UP? You will not find nobody to put their name there. The same way nobody put their names against Komis's name
Oh
at
man.
ANC.
But
The reality here is this. We all know that even with the new candidates, even with the new individuals, it is difficult to gather votes. Then talking about somebody, get Gonglo there on his own. Mr. Gamer, go ahead, sir. Let me
okay,
hear you.
guys, I know I will come back to that, but let's go to a real juicier topic here. Recently, we had some group of professionals trying to smear my good president, Dr. George Manuel Weir. And these people that came up with this report said that the road funds, money set aside to build roads, maintain roads, manufacture anything that has to do with road, they said the money was illegally transferred or spent. Mr. Patmore, you are a Cummings guy, and Cummings says doing the same thing over and over and expecting different result is craziness or insanity. Even though those were not his own words, that's a quotation by Albert Einstein that he stole. He's a plagiarized. He never gave credit to where credit is. But let's go to this. What's about the road fund that Ross caught Mr. Cummings the wrong way?
Well, here's the thing. The road fund rubs more than Mr. Cummings. The road fund actually should rub every Liberian the wrong way. Okay? The road fund is not just a policy. The road fund is law. It's actually an act that was passed by the national legislature. And in that act, it was stated very clearly. The government decided to raise taxes on the already suffering people of Liberia, to raise the price of gasoline on the suffering people of Liberia. And their justification was, we need to build roads. This money is only going to be used for roads. So that was their justification for adding more suffering on the Liberian people. Okay, when you tax people who are already struggling, you increasing their suffering. So it was placed in the act that the money will be used solely, the word is there, solely for roads. Because of that, and because Liberians understood the need for roads, and that without roads, the economic well-being could never ever really take off, they accepted that suffering, they accepted that burden, they accepted that tax. Now the money has been collected now. The finance minister decides, well, we're going to use it for other things. We'll use it to pay salary. We'll use it to fuel the private jet. We'll use it when the president will go Ivory Coast for 5 days. This is against the law. It's a law. You don't ignore the law and do what you want to do with the people's money. There is not Samuel Twain's money to use. It is not. There is actually that idea, the whole road fund idea, of course, came from the U.S. The U.S. has a highway fund. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's built in the same on the same precept that will take money from the people that use the highway, and we'll put it aside, and we'll use it to maintain the highway. There's in that law, there's also something called a death. It's called a death penalty. That's the term they use. Basically, what it says is that if a dime of this money is ever used for anything other than road or transportation, then no other money will ever be added to it, and this whole act will crush on itself. That is how serious people took it. And we need to do the same in Liberia. Okay? You cannot announce a $1 billion budget and all these things. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're building this, and and then you're using the people's money illegally. It is illegal. It is illegal, and it's sad that that people will not take this up with the Supreme Court. Okay?
Okay.
Take it up with the Supreme, because the Supreme Court needs to be that buffer zone to tell the president, no, you can't do this. To tell the prime minister, no, you cannot do this. You can't continue using the people's money like that.
Mr. Tule.
The first thing with Liberia, I said it on Madam Salif. When they did the budget forecast, Mr. Gaiman, and they took it from, I can't remember, I think 100 million or believe 100 million to 500 million. I was one of those who said that thing was just for campaign purposes because it wasn't realistic. And also, again, another problem with that entire budget was the fact that it was expenditure heavy, recurring expenditure heavy. It didn't take into consideration the future by putting money aside for investment in critical infrastructure and developing service orientation. I mentioned to you before the show started how much money the government has used over the time from Taylor time to now, buying vehicles for the police in Liberia. And because we don't have any discipline, any structure in place, it's not restricted to a particular regime. The police just damage the cars. Okay, one of those cars will cost anywhere between $40,000 to $60,000, and they will just damage it. They will just use it roughly and they damage it. The last time I was in Ghana was in 2012. And I remember Mr. Eastman passing at one police station, and I saw some of the cars that I saw in 1998 still running in 2012. And I was saying, how much money could we save as a nation if we were frugal and we were disciplined with our assets? Now, coming to the point here with the road fund, is the lack of genuineness, is the lack of honesty. That money, like Padmo said, isn't meant for any other purpose but road fund. The budget is so big and you don't have money to take it. You have no fiscal discipline or fiscal control. You have stealing going on, massive stealing going on at every level of government, no level of accountability whatsoever. So all they're doing, because they got a ball now. Typical example. I want to ask a question before I complete my statement. Marco, you're aware that the money that was expended for that sports pitch, do you know if there was a budgetary allotment for it? Was it in any budget?
No. The president just woke up one day and decided he was going to spend that money, and Samuel Twitch should find that money and provide it.
Okay, but then we see where the problem coming from.
Well,
because even in your own house, if you just live in just that from your pocket, and anytime you think about anything, just take the money from your pocket and go spend it. You will run into trouble. You will destroy your credit, and you have serious fiscal problems. It's the same thing that's happening in Liberia right now. You got a bunch of people who are not aware of how to run things. Okay, it's a good idea. You want to build this stuff, but you have a budget coming. Put the money aside in the budget. Make sure you're supposed to have the money. What is killing us in Liberia is affecting everything. Take an example. This guy's Celtic. It's passing around Monrovia right now, showing garbage collection spots. You got massive heaps of garbage uncollected in the city. Everybody was complaining. The government said, we can't supply enough electricity now. Mr. Eastman, this is in your ballpark. We can't supply enough electricity now because the hydro is dry. When rainy season comes and the water volume goes up, we will ensure that every community in Liberia, in Monrovia, have some stable supply of electricity. It hasn't happened. And what makes it worse is the astronomical cost of petroleum products on the world market now. And in the midst of it, Mr. Eastman, we have this thing from Ivory Coast that we can tap into and supply current for the whole Liberia. They're refusing to endorse that project because maybe there's no direct pocket lining opportunity for any individual there. This thing, that's the reason why they're failing. And you were saying something the opposite. Let me say this to you before I turn it over to you, Mr. Eastman. No matter how much we fight opposition about framework document or whatever, I'm saying this to you today. The Liberian people are done with that misrule that is going on over there. We will solve our problem This man myself will force here, but we know how far we can go. We'll find a way to surpass these impasses that we have created for ourselves, or we have allowed or meddlesome interlopers to come in to create. At the end of the day, we'll present a strong, unified opposition against this misrule, and we'll kick them out of government, because it's not just about the money, but it's about everything. They have a lawless attitude towards everything in Liberia. These guys feel that Liberia belongs to them. And you know why? I will say this. We need an uprising, not to kick the president out, but to show to the national legislature, because he's talking about going to the Supreme Court. There are people who got a problem in Liberia, even more than the president at the national legislature. The people need to get on the street and to tell the people that we are serious, we are tired with the misrule, so that it will put them, the judiciary, and the executive on notice, so that every future government that comes will not see this country like their private property, but they will know that the people will stand up for themselves, and if you continue to treat them with disdain.
Mr. Eastman.
Yeah.
One
Anyway,
minute, one minute, Mr. Eastman. 2020, Mr. Tooley, Mr. Patmore, Mr. Uri, Mr. Cummings, they were all over the country talking about, we will bring in new group of folks, let us come in. We are going to change the directory of this country, the projector of this country. Watch, after this 2020, everything is going to be changed. The Liberian people listen to them, and they want almost everything across the country. They control both Senate and and the House. We don't have a lower and upper chamber like the British system, but we have a House and the Senate, and they control all of this. Now here we are, we talk about road funds. Those of us that are into public management knows that there's something called budget transfer. When there are times that when things go awry, you are allowed under the law to transfer line item from line item A to line item B with justification. Mr. Eastman, you chime in here, because these people are confusing logic with partisanship. These two guys right here.
Okay, Mr. Tooley said a whole lot to address, to unpack, especially when it comes to the power situation. That's a whole day discussion. What's going on with power? Because one of the reasons we're not participating to that the Ivory Coast power line is because we owe. My question is, how do we owe? Before I get electricity, I pay for it. So how did they get to this point? Well, let's leave that alone. Let's go into this highway project. Okay. Now, I agree, Mr. Gaiman, that budgetary items can be moved around, but there's something called restricted and unrestricted funds. When a fund is restricted, that is a strong word. It means you cannot take it and you take funds from there and use it for something else. And usually, by and large, it's the donor. The donor who's giving that money restricts the funds. So when the government goes and use donor restricted funds for another progress, for another project, that's a serious ingress. So we have to understand why this may be alarming. Now, let's say you run into a budget shortfall for whatever reason. Salaries are not being paid. Okay, all this is part of your forecasting. Now, to go into restricted funds can cause other kind of issues. It erodes your trust. The donor government has to report back to the progress of the project, and when they can't report back, it means they too have failed in another sense. So that is why this thing is causing an alarm. Now, to bring things back to normal, you would have to first cover those funds that were taken out. Hopefully that will be done in the short term. But this is why it has that cascading effect when you use restricted funds. Restricted funds means that it's restricted. It cannot be used for another purpose.
Yeah, but Mr. Eastman, You are. I don't want you to mix donors' money with the general funds account, which is what is in our government raised by ourselves. For example, in the United States, our Social Security, our retirement is restricted by law. But if you listen to the United States government, the federal government, 10 years ago, they are saying by the end of 2020, 2030, which is the end, basically the end of the baby boomers, Social Security is going to be insolvent. That means the money that we are collecting that have been restricted is being used for something else or for the other folks. And those of us who are in the workforce are paying for those who are ahead of us. And there's no guarantee that Tule, Isma, Mr. Padma, and myself, that we are going to be paid when our turn comes around. So we are talking about trillions of dollars. So these things happen. Now, this is what I'm saying. We were talking about the electrical and all of that. I think if you listen, this on Monday, when the president called a stakeholders meeting with the U.S. ambassador, the EU ambassador, the IMF, and all of those, they made it clear why electricity is not in Liberia, and they made it clear. First of all, the Millennium Fund that was given, that brought the dam into the hydropower into fund. 3 of those are broken down. They need to be refurbished. Second, the power pool that we've been talking about, we are saying, or we thought, or the opposition been saying that we needed only $9 million to actually effectuate the electricity from the African power pool from the Cote d'Ivoire. You saw that press release, that press conference. It is actually what is needed to get electricity from the Ivory Coast to Liberia, the airport, including solar. It is 60 million US dollars. And how are they going to do this? The EU decided they were going to take the responsibility of repairing the hydro. They asked the Liberian government to put forth a fourth of the $60 million, which is $15 million. And the finance minister said, that is money that we have. That's our portion of the money that needs to be paid ASAP. And the guy from, I think it was from Focus on Liberia, their new correspondent, that asked, where is this money going to come from when the government is broke? And the finance minister said, this is what we do. This is how government runs. We are going to look over the entire budget and take money from somewhere and put it here because this is urgent. This is how government runs. It is not corruption. It is just a government that does not have enough to go around with all that is happening. So, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Padmo, this has nothing to do with you just taking money and building stuff. This is moving money around to keep yourself employed. It happens everywhere.
But Mr. Gilman, to a point, I totally agree. The government has a right to exercise jurisdiction over their money. But when you are in partnership with your donor, and they say you bring 50% and I bring 50%, then you take that money out and do something else with it. That's when it causes an issue. All right. People, what happens there? That's why you have to keep your liquidity up, because had we had good credit line, something like a salary payment that you need to do, you could borrow short term, a couple of $1 million in the short term, and pay it back when you get the revenue. Okay. But when you start taking money designated for a project out, that shows something greater than just a short-term shortage. It shows something greater, especially when you have come to agreement that you're going to accomplish this thing 50-50 with your donor. Okay? We have to take a certain level of responsibility, or what's going to happen. We're going to ruin future joint ventures with our partners. The whole power project, the reason why it's failing is largely because they don't have a target consumer. Ghana had the same issue. They wanted to build a very big dam, but they didn't get the money until they were secured large purchase of power from the bauxite company. We should have targeted a consumer first. Who's going to buy all this power? Because the local consumers, they don't buy much power. Even when I was there, the embassies, the factories, those are the main people who paid us, where we got our revenue from. So this whole design, it was all about generation. But where the rubber meets the road is sales. You have to build. First of all, you have to build a distribution line, which they don't have. They don't have it. They can't take it everywhere. But mainly, who were they targeting to consume this? Who are the industrial companies they were targeting? So you don't have anybody to get the money from, and you get engaged in this project.
And that's a very, Mr. Tula, coming to you, that's a very salient point, because one of the requirements, according to the meeting that we held, was that Liberia needs to come up with a plan that will clearly state how the consumers in Liberia from the Ivory Coast to Monrovia will be able to pay for the power distribution. How are these people going to pay? Who's going to collect? How they're going to collect it? And who's going to disperse the funds when you do not have the financial wherewithal to have electricity to electrify the whole Maryland County? They done part of that. They can't pay. They have done part of NEMA. They can't pay. Now you talk about Grand Bassa and Montserrat and McGeevy County. Who are going to pay for this? The government has to come up with a plan of action with acceptable proof that if these people don't pay, it will be subsidized.
You don't need to
be subsidized.
Go
ahead, Tule.
Mr. Gayman, it doesn't need to be subsidized. Let me say this to you. Everyone, the only way you will use the power that like is done in Liberia right now is by prepay. You go, you pay, you use. Mm-hmm. You go, you pay, you use. But that is not the problem. Mr. Pabmo, the problem here is the lack of an effective system and laws to support that system. We must criminalize power theft in Liberia to the point that when you are caught, you are dealt with so drastically that by the time that message, you deal with 4 or 5 persons, prison, fines, forfeiture of property, all kinds of stuff. You do a couple of times. Because let me say this to you, Mr. Gimman. This is about changing our country. The way our country is going, it makes you want to get on plane to go back home. And be honest with you. Because it's like nothing seems to work because we don't have systems in place. But when you go to other nations, they put a system in place. Look at Kagame. The last time you must have talking about it. Taking over from 94 when his predecessor, I forgot the guy's name. It wasn't Habyarimana. He starts from age. He was a Tutsi. A Hutu. He was the head of the Rwandan Patriotic Front. He became the first leader after they kicked the Interahamwe and the government out of power. And then he passed away, and then Kagame took over for him. And Kagame had run that country, albeit almost like as a dictator. I agree. But look at the way things have gone. Because they have set standards and they have decided that they will raise these standards. And if the only way you enjoy yourself in Rwanda is by living according to those standards, people fell in line. The reason why Liberia, we're having all these problems because nobody wants to fall in line. Mr. Pablo, I lived in Liberia. I know how we went through headache every month to connect to private power suppliers, and people pay that money. Mm-hmm. People look for that money, even if they had to forego some important things. They did it because they wanted to keep power coming to their house from 6 o'clock or from 8 o'clock in the night to get break. Yeah. And maybe just a few amps, not even enough to carry. Sometimes not even enough to carry one air conditioner, but just for light to be on for the kids to be able to study and to be able to cool the refrigerator in the house. Mr. Gaiman, if you want to make project viable, you have means of making it viable. Root out corruption, criminalize wrongdoing, criminalize fraud, pass laws, go to that useless national legislature and tell them to do their jobs. Let them pass laws that will support critical governmental functions like provision of electricity, provision of water. Even if you want to go into private ownership of these things, how will it be done when corruption devastates the entire system It has to change.
Mr. Padmore, I think the U.S. ambassador said why they're willing, he's pushing for a second Millennium Challenge money for Liberia to finally do this. One of the things that he talked about, and I never heard this before, I heard it to some degree, is 60%. We're not talking about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, but 60% of the power generated in Liberia are lost or is lost to theft. This tells me that it is not just the regular person that is stealing power, because Mr. Tule cannot climb out there to connect this. There has to be a cabal or cartel within the LEC itself that needs to be dealt with. From what I'm hearing, when you talk about 60% of the utilities in Liberia being stolen, it cannot be the regular Joe Blow from the street that connecting the wires. It has to be an inside network here.
Okay, Mr. Gamer. I am blessed to to have several companies money in Liberia. We applied for a transformer. We paid the money up front. Unbeknownst to me, the gentleman even paid extra to expedite the process. Back in December, we are still waiting for a transformer. Oh, not a transformer, you call it a meter. Not a transformer, a meter. Okay? Because of that, the business cannot pick up. Because there's no reliable electricity. While that is happening, you can go to the LEC, or the LEC people, they will come to you, okay, and basically tell you that while you're waiting for that, we can hook you up for small thing. People in the community will tell you, be sitting there waiting for LEC. We've been waiting for LEC over 1 year. Most of us have even paid for our meters. LEC has called, we'll send our ticket. No meter. So we just phone the main area, and he hook everybody up. And we're getting small thing. The reason why I share your frustration, Mr. Tule, but the reason why the government will not is because the government in itself is corrupt. It's very difficult to go after corruption when you yourself are corrupt. The LEC has a complete unit that's supposed to enforce power. That's supposed to enforce that for power theft, against power theft. They themselves are corrupt. The whole system is rotten. Okay, and I will tell you something. It starts from the head. When George Weah became president, he started to dress certain way, purple suit. Everybody started wearing purple suit in Liberia. Next, he took out a leather shoe, he put sneaker on. Everybody started wearing sneaker with dress clothes. This is the gift of Mr. Weah. It is the demand of the office. So goes the president, so goes the country. If Mr. Weah steps up, even in this late day, if he decides, he steps on and says, you know what, we are going to do things the right way, things will happen the right way in Liberia.
Mr. Eastman?
We don't have to wait for a Jerry Rawlings.
Mr. Eastman, this is not a partisan thing here.
No, it's not.
This makes sense because I heard from the EU ambassador when they emerged from that meeting on Monday. He said he was impressed with the president's leadership, how he held the meeting. And he said the president made it clear to, I guess, the justice minister and the other folks that were there, that as of today's date, we want everybody who is not paying for utility from the government ministers, big corporations who are illegally stealing power to be shut down and arrested. And the EU ambassador said for the first time that we had a clear mandate. Now, what Mr. Padmo is saying here, it makes sense as the leader who, when you walk and talk, people mimic what you do. Because he started wearing his pro suit, almost everybody started doing that. So now that if he can use that same power of persuasion to tell the folks, listen, if you are just a minister to come to your house and you are stealing utility, you're going to go to jail. We don't have to worry about, I know people say constitutional issue and all that, but you need to go to jail and then work your way out of there. Don't tell me you got to give me due diligence and due process of law. If you are a thief, whether you vice president, justice minister, or foreign minister, when you are busted, you got to go to jail and then work your way out of there. You are a thief.
Mr. Gaiman?
Yes.
Mr. Gaiman, I want to ask you one question here. Have President Weah, forget about English, whatever, but lean on a podium to address the Liberian people on any important issue? Because that particular issue here, we ain't going anywhere as a nation until we can address this power supply issue. Okay? It's just fundamental to development. Have this man ever sat down and said, look, my people, they're current business, people stealing current. I'm saying it now. If you are caught, we'll deal with you, and nobody will listen to you when you beg and cry. So if you have the illegal connection, you better call ADC people and come and disconnect it now. Because when they come and find out on their own, we'll hold you. Has he ever? This man rap to the people like
Mr. Tule, we agree here that this was the first time I heard from the EU's ambassador that this mandate was given to the cabinet. Now the enforcement mechanism, that piece is something else that we all have to watch. But yes, I think Mr. Padmore has a point. As the leader, if you make this, if you put this at the point of the arrow, I think it's going to go. And it has nothing to do with partisanship. This is, when I served as vice president for the chamber here, when we go outside the state or outside the country to recruit other companies to come to Florida, the three things they always ask about, first of all, is utility, public utilities. Do you have public utilities? Second, they ask for school. Do you have school district? Do you have for our employees and workforce development and all of that? Okay, and then they start talking about other things like the healthcare system and all of those things. But public utility is always the number one thing. Number one, roads, electricity, public water, sewage and water. Those are the things, because if you're done, then that means they have to create a fiefdom within your own city. They have to come and build a city within a city, and that money that will be taken away from you, and then they will take it and put it into that, like Metal Steel is doing. Instead of paying our people $20 an hour, they pay them $2 an hour, because they spend the rest of the money building road, building hospital, building houses, building school,
running expensive generator.
Running expensive generator to run up. So it is a no-brainer here. This one has nothing to do with policy. This new generation of leaders.
Even if it does, Mr. Gaiman, stop making excuses for these people. Even if it does, they are the ones in power. They wanted it for 12 years. They have it now. Mr. Eastman asked a question. Who will be the major user of these things if the tariff is just, if the tariff is viable economically for these companies? Beer factory, Coca-Cola factory, cement factory, all the Lebanese people with the cold storage, their supermarkets, their hotels and everything, they all run an expensive generator. It has to be maintained. It breaks down on a consistent basis. The parts are so expensive. If you give them a tariff that is just, that is comparable with the sub-region, they will tap into your grid and they will use the services and they will pay huge money into government revenue. But why is it not happening? Is it not happening because we lack leadership, Mr. Gaiman? That is what the problem is. Right now is a political issue, because the people in power right now, they don't know what to do. And the worst thing about it, they're not coming to people like Mr. Eastman and you and other people who know what to do to give them the expertise to help them to move their car that is broken down in the middle of the road.
You know, they did a study in 2013. The World Watchdog, and they found out that even though some crimes or mismanagement of funds are punishable in Liberia, but corruption itself is not a crime. Corruption itself is not a crime. That's why we haven't taken the bull by the horn. We haven't really. In fact, the corruption index, which stages from 0 to 100, we come about 71 on that scale. 100 being the worst. If you want to compare maybe something like the United States, they're down to 33. It's not like other countries don't have this, but we're over 50%. And we haven't been able to address this issue. And it is a challenge. Even Madame Sirleaf, when we asked her when she first got there, how will you, we see you hiring the CMO people. How will you enforce, if they see them going wrong, how will you deal with it? She said she will enforce the law. There's nothing wrong with the laws, but enforcing the laws. But part of it, we need to make corruption as a whole. This is something the legislature can do. They need to make a law against corruption itself, and then we'll have to worry about enforcing it. But there's going to need some will. The government going to need some strong will. That's what they're going to have to come in hard, because it is endemic, okay, and we know of it. It's not something we don't know. It's almost the cost of doing business. I mean, if you want your papers done in any ministry, you have to pay for it to get done. Yes. That's how we're functioning. So when are we going to turn the corner? When are we're going to continue until it gets worse? But this is why when you see the opposition fighting amongst themselves, it tells me we in this thing for a long time, because not even people who talk about changing things are honest to themselves. The whole reason for this collapse is a dishonesty. Whether we want to accept it or not, there's dishonesty somewhere. Some distrust you always had, that you're trying to wrangle with each other. Because if there was transparency, if there was pure honesty, it wouldn't be. So this thing is in us as a culture. So we need a cultural revolution to say we are not these kind of people. That's what we need. We need to say that Liberians are not this kind of people. We have survived the war. We survived more than wars. They wanted to close Liberia down. The colonial powers wanted to overtake Liberia. We survived. We fought our cases. We can survive this trend, but we need the will. The will of the people has to be done. And I agree. If we start talking to people, if we start conscientizing people, if people get on board with this, we may see something happen. But it does help when we have leadership in this.
Let me give one extreme example I saw.
Okay, real quick, so we go to the comment section.
We arrived in Ghana in 1990. Watching TV one day, they brought 8 men before the screen. They have been arrested for stealing copper wire, the electric wire that was buried, in some major developmental areas. So they were arraigned before the military tribunal, because at that time Geraldine was in power. It was the military, I think AFRC, right, that was in power in Ghana. And these guys were found guilty, and they were all sentenced to death. And the sentence was immediate. The execution of the sentence was immediate. They were all executed at the Insawan prison. And I was shocked, because I've never heard about such a thing coming from Liberia. But it had grown, Michael, it had grown to an endemic or situation where they were sabotaging major developmental projects. When the people building these new places, they go and cut all the wires down, and they distribute. You know how it is now. They go and remove everything, and then it sets the projects back long term. And as a result of it, the government decided they were going to make an example of those who were caught in this thing. And the military junta passed that amended. If you are caught stealing copper wire and the case is proven against you, you'll be executed. They executed a few persons. That situation went away. I'm not saying kill people in Liberia, but what I'm saying is we have to put in some very, very stringent measures. Look, they did not from the business. If Maka become leader, if if Cummings becomes a leader and Marco then get into place, his brother shouldn't go commit crime or say, "Oh, my brother over there." So then they'll call the brother on the phone and say, "Oh, your brother, yeah, he committed a crime. We arrested him." So then they start to beg. That family team needs to die in Liberia. You hold people accountable. If it is to the maximum, it doesn't matter who. It can be me. It can be anybody. Liberia has to change, and the only way we change, we will hold each other accountable.
I don't understand. If our engineers are back there, can we go to some comment? I'm actually enjoying how our Mexico here. She is.
I don't know what you did to her.
I need to bring her on the show. She needs to come out here and co-host with me because I'm in love with Hawa. Hawa is cool. She is just a lover of the CDC government. She loves me and I love her. Hawa, if you have time, call me. We'll bring you on so we can discuss the issue. She's very passionate about women's issue, and that's a good thing. Everybody has a passion. She has a passion about women's issue, and I think it's a good thing. Can we go to some of the comments, please, if we can? Oh, there you go. Howard Metzger, thank you for chiming in. That's the same unstable LEC. Your Playboy president wants people to protect their home with CCTV camera. Vanny Taylor, Liberia problem is from the legislature, not the executive branch. I kind of agree with you.
Oh, come on.
Sam Waller, that's not true. You can't just move dedicated funds around. That's called misappropriation. Mr. Sam Waller, that's not true.
Oh my God! You need to stop.
Don't
You
do
need to
that,
stop.
man.
Listen, man.
You thought the truth. You thought.
Listen, Mr. Tula, let me read this here. Mr. Waller is not an administrator. He don't do what you talk about. Mr. Dualu, don't make any such comparison between USA and Liberia. We understand. Listen, why you guys don't want us to make this comparison when we want to ascribe for the best?
Well, you're not making the best comparison.
Let's do this. Huh?
You're not making the best comparison. That's the problem.
We are making it. Cristiano King, this president will not be questioned over anything because his hands are clean. His hands are clean. So don't sit in America and just imagine wrongly. That's true.
That's a fake profile, bro.
The president is doing his best, and you guys just try to make us stuff. Aliu Samba, Mr. Gaiman. Mr. Gilman is dishonest politician. He gave wrong information with a lot of confidence.
There you go.
Okay, let me read it one, Mr. Gaiman. Let me read it one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look, let us be frank tonight on the show. If we are led administration was so corrupt, like the CPP and their sympathizers have claimed, then why the United States, the European Union, the IMF, and the World Bank still doing a great business with the government? They mean somebody is lying to the Liberian general public, like to Liberia's general public just for political power.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Paul, you're doing good.
That is very sad.
Are you V Samba confidence or loud noise?
Go ahead.
It says the executive can move. The executive move money around without legislative consent. You are supposed to go back and get approval agreement to do it.
That's the law.
That's the law. Mr. Gilman, the major problem here is that there are long-term lasting consequences that affect the entire country with these kinds of illegal shifting of resources that are not accounted for. It's the stealing we're talking about, passing vouchers for fake reasons. When will Gilman be moving his family? When will Gilman be moving his family to Liberia to be with his God, with his good president? Never. Yeah, Variant powerhouse. Oh yes, his only speaker is protocol officer. Where's sneaker? I mean, is protocol. No, okay, let me down. Following from my comfort zone, George Freeman. Two more that talk about Gonglo. Mr. Eastman, you always come out with teeth and wise words on this platform. Thank you. I agree with that one.
So we're going to
that Eastman cussing over there.
What legislators? The Spanish legislators that control, but that's controlled by we are. We need a clean sweep of legislators, sir. Not these brown envelope carriers. That's the reality. Who can even speak about justice? Mr. Gaiman, this is a problem. Mr.
Listen.
Gaiman, this is an issue. Going on the thing. Let me say this to you, Mr. Gaiman.
Mhm.
Ellen did this thing to us. Madam Seri did this thing to us. The subversion, the subjugation of the national legislators or legislature. And Mr. Palmo said something here. He said, you want to tell me your people in your sphere of your political leaders, your operators in your party, you can't trust them, they're not committed to you. Mr. Palmo, I will say this to you, then you don't know Liberia. Because there are people who can sell their man down the road for $500 US. $500. And if you promise them to give them $1,000 after the sale, you want some of the money. You just tell them, say, sell her, and after you sell her, I will give you $1,000 extra. They will go and sell her. And I'm telling you today. So Liberia, they were seeing what we're talking about. Mr. Gaiman made a point. The national legislature is controlled by what we call quote unquote opposition, right?
For the
Mr.
most
Gaiman,
part.
not so?
That's right.
And it's supposed to be in a majority in both the Senate and the House of
That's correct.
Representatives.
Yeah.
But they all work as if to say they work for the executive.
Okay, gentlemen, let's go on to the next two real quick because we're running out of time here. We are going to put the next two into one, which is those two are the deplorable condition, at least from the outside, that we see of the Liberian embassy in Monroe. I mean, in Washington D.C., and then our service delivery system. We talked briefly about that.
Oh, you left the Gonglo thing out, sir.
Oh, okay. Now let's go to Gonglo real quick. Then we'll close on the embassy. Mr. Eastman.
Yes.
Your good friend Gonglo is in the United States. I don't know what part of the United States he's there. Some people thought he was in Puerto Rico, but I think he's in
I think he landed in Atlanta. I think he was in
he's
Atlanta.
in Atlanta somewhere. Okay, he's in Atlanta. Where he is, it doesn't look like America, but that's Atlanta. He says he's in America. Now tell me, what is he here? What organization he has here? What is it he tries to gain? I hope Mr. Dave Jai was here to tell us.
Yeah.
What is the goal of this thing? Is he raising money? How much is he raising? Who paying to see him?
Let me tell you one little thing about Gonglo. I knew him in LU. We did classes together. He was advanced, and in fact he was our TA for our instructor, Mr. Dr. Fofana. He used to grade our test papers. So I knew him. I knew the comrade from way back. That man, he is known as the poor man lawyer. He's a man of extreme integrity. With that man, he has resigned from posts. He was labor minister. He resigned from LA government. He was they appointed him to minister of telecommunication. He refused the appointment. That man is a man of a lot of principle. That I give him. He's been consistent. He's been a human rights lawyer. He's been consistent throughout the years. That the same Gonglo I knew back in the 80s in LU is the same Gonglo I see today. That's how much consistent he has been. Now, apparently, I saw him the other day. He said he wants to run for president. And that's a daunting task because he doesn't have to. It requires a lot of finance. It requires a lot of infrastructure. It requires a big mechanism to get your popularity out there, so people can know you, so people can be acquainted with you and vote for you. So I said, how are you going to do it? And he said he's going to have to get some supporters. So his mission here is pretty obvious. He's trying to get support for this campaign. This campaign that he's trying to take back to Liberia to change things. He has been somebody who's been very vocal, very transparent. He condemned the nepotism of the Ellen government. He called it out. It's a spade. That's one of his reasons for resigning. He calls things as he sees it. Okay, and he's being a human rights lawyer. He believes in fairness across the board. Okay, he may be hailing from the Nima tribe, but I don't believe that this man will look at things from a tribal view. He will look at things from a perspective of law and order. He also has a background in economics because that's what we're doing together, economics. So he has a firm grip on the economics and law. So this is what he's come here to offer. But many will want to argue that it's a bit late in the game. But let's look at Liberia. What the people are crying, things are hard. We do know there's only one popular person in Liberia to beat, and that is our president George Manawe. He's the most popular, the most prolific of all those aspirants. But the opposition, we see they are in disarray. They are fighting amongst, and they're dishonest. I don't believe that the opposition has been very honest. So having Gonglo as another person coming in and then maybe a dark horse, I think it gives the Liberian people an offer. And maybe that also, because sometimes when you have strong competition, then it also tends to make you improve. Hopefully, as we see things progress, we'll see better changes. We'll see some strong action against corruption and malfeasance in Liberia. We'll see things correcting itself due to the public sentiment. So hopefully, this challenge from Mr. Pullman Lawyer will bring Liberia more back to where we all want it to be.
Mr. Tule.
Yeah.
Before I go to Mr. Padmore here, Mr.
Let
Gonglo
him go
was
first. I was just speaking. Let him go first, sir.
okay. Mr. Padmore, Gonglo was on this particular platform, and he was asked why was he doing this and why was his prospect. And Mr. Gonglo looked us in the eye and said, "I'm not only here to win this, but I'm going to win it in the first round." He said he's going to win this election in the first round. Then on one other occasion, he was caught with a hot mic where he wanted to do what Mr. Tule was talking about, that he will arrest and put people in jail immediately, and he had to walk some of those things back. So here we are. Is this gentleman ready for prime time? Is he okay to come out? Even Joseph Waikai himself said it. Say one person cannot beat George Weah. The former president said that one particular party cannot win election, and CDC learned this the hard way. We have to come out and form coalition with other folks to win. But this man is saying either he's delusional or he is a neophyte. He said he's going to win it in the first round all by himself. Mr. Padmore.
So, obviously, Mr. Gonglo is pitching off of what is happening in the opposition. It's clear to see. He sees a space there for himself. Since these people are arguing, let me see if I can find a space. And maybe if I can, while they're arguing, if I can insert myself well enough, by the time they get their act together, it might be too late for them. And then all of them might be forced to come, to join me. Right now, let's be honest here, because of his reputation, because of his past deeds, any opposition party that Gonglo decides to join right now or to collaborate right now will get a boost. Immediately. It will give them a boost. He understands that. Is the whole campaign thing right now realistic? No, I don't think it's realistic. I really don't. I think he's trying to get capital, political capital that he can spend later on. That's what I see.
Thank you. Mr. Tule, real quick here, we're running out of time here. We got 10 minutes and we need to go to the embassy thing. But you said something very interesting about this man stands no chance. He's masquerading. Actually, he's a political cross-dresser. He's actually not.
I didn't say all of those things. Don't lie on my
name. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. People be here for all kind of things. Now you want me look and bad. Like I said, all the no. What I said, he just bad. That old man is just a bad old man. Listen, what I said, and I will assert it again, or reassert again, is this: that Gonglo is not known by the voting populace in Liberia. He is known by those who are educated, who are the Morovia people and stuff like that. But the further you go away from the base of power, people don't know him. And I've said this thing, and then I'll just listen to Mark Jabate talking and say from his own uh going around the country, everything that Joseph Boga is in pole position in the opposition is the same kind of mentality. You gotta be with the people for a while before they can trust you, before they say that man have wanted this thing long enough so that we can trust him with it. And that mentality is like this. They have a ranking in their mindset. Oh, that they meant time. And after they meant then the other meant time. Then after that, then the other meant time. If you try to upset that balance with them, you just hurt yourself in the process. So, but is that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. This guy, like Mr. Eastman said, he has a lot of good. And like Padmo said, whoever he joins, we have a boost because he can implement stuff. The thing that killing our country, that corruption, the lack of honor, the lack of integrity, the lack of systems, accountability, the lack of probity is destroying Liberia. So when you have a man who would prioritize that thing, the way Kagame prioritized corruption in Rwanda, like the way the French had to kill this guy. What's his name? The French tried to kill Kagame too. They tried to kill Kagame on several occasions. But because the guy is so security minded, being a former general, he never gave them no chance. Unlike Thomas Sankara, who played fun with his personal security. We want to go around with 3 persons sitting in the front seat of a Babi Solo. Babi Solo with no convoy, nothing. 3 men, one driver, one person behind him, sitting in the front seat of a Babi Solo. None of them even got any long rifle. They all only have pistols on the side. That's how he went around. You want to bring reform. You want to destroy neo-colonialism. You want to transform the minds of your people and bring them into a place of full mental emancipation. And you take chances with your personal security. They try to kill Jerry Williams too. The Americans try to kill Jerry Williams and they fail. And kick the CIA out of Ghana. So I'm just saying these things to say that things can happen, change can come, and this guy can be an element of change in our country. Seriously. Because he's beholden to no one. And he ain't scared of anybody. He will say it as it is. Any man going around with broom at the temple of justice, sweeping all in the yard, the symbolism of that act alone, go to the national legislature, sweep in the yard of the national legislature, he's trying to say something. That national legislature, to deal with them, you need the people. We need to go keep them in that building for 1 week, no water, no food, so that they can change. Because if they don't change, no president will ever change in Liberia easily.
Great. Guys, we got 5 minutes here. So what we're going to do now is I want you to take the last piece that we have here, the service delivery and the U.S. Embassy thing. I want us to take 2 minutes apiece, address that, and your closing so we can get out of here and give these people time to come on and do their preparation. Mr. Eastman.
Yes. Okay. We see the state of the Liberian embassy something shameful. It's unkempt, and we don't understand why. Because we know that the revenue they gain from visas and permits, whatever they issue, they can use directly for the upkeep of the embassy. Mm-hmm. And for it to have gone to the level it's gone to is inexplicable, especially since this is the nation's, this is Liberia's #1 ally. This is where this is the world front. This is the headquarters of the world, so to speak. And you have to represent yourself properly. I don't understand what can be the problem. We need to talk to the ambassador. What if his funds not coming? We know we've been strapped for cash for a while. And I grew up in embassies, and never have I seen an embassy so unkept like this one here today. It's getting to a point that you kind of wonder what is going to happen next. Will it stop breaking down? Because eventually, when you don't repair these the places, it deteriorates the place, and then you have further issues with the place. So whatever needs to be done, I mean, if it comes to it, Let's Liberians rally. We Liberians who in the USA and in the diaspora. Let's come together and let's put money together. Let's fix our embassy, because the way looking, we need it needs some urgent care and repairs.
Thank you. Mr. Tule, go ahead. With your closing all into one. We run out of time.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I will just say the guy who's there as ambassador has no respect for himself. Yeah, because even though now your own house, but the fact that that's your office, and you having some money coming into the building, people buying or paying for something all the time. Even if you can harass the government or find a way, but even just to cut the grass in the yard and give it a coat of paint, we can find a way. Maybe this coming July 26th, instead of going to have party at the embassy, we buy paint, we buy and we carry soap, buckets, and stuff, and carry carpet cleaning machines, whatever they got, because that day will not be American holiday. I'm very sure. I don't know the day, what day will fall on. People can hire carpet cleaning machine from Home Depot and other places. People can carry paint. Those who got painting company can go with their ladders and things like that. We paint that place, and people carry grass and stuff and plant grass in the yard and stuff. Instead of having big food gathering, whatever, we go and do a cleanup campaign at the embassy. But my point, the thing I look at here is the lack of love for country. It's not just about the embassy. If you look at, like, Mr. Gimel, I was mentioning something. I saw that thing. I used to take, because I'm a car enthusiast, right? I used to take note of it on a Charles Taylor. You will see a whole batch of new cars will come. Within 6 months, 8 months to a year, everything will disappear. They will go and bring a new set again. That's waste of resources right there. One car the money for that car can run a generator for a month at a hospital at $60,000 to $40,000. It can run a generator at a hospital for a month. One car. So we got critical needs, and we're taking the money, we're spending in other areas because people don't love the country, people don't respect themselves. Can you imagine the thing, Mr. Gimme? A policeman, he is the commander for a detachment, maybe the depot, the whole area. He got one car sitting on there. He said he ain't got battery. When they call them to go somewhere, they gotta push that car. You want to tell me all that money what they can take from people when people can lodge their cases and all the things, and he want to go to Freeport and buy one used battery and put it in their car so they can kick and start? It's just the mentality. Everybody only seeks his own. Nobody cares about the country. It has to change. It comes down from leadership.
That's correct. Mr. Padmore, 1 minute, and then I'll take 1 minute and we'll be out of here. You are muted.
So here's the thing. I think the embassy issue is only a semblance of what's happening in Liberia. What's happening with our government? What's happening with the way they approach things? What's happening with the way they run things? We know that the embassy raises money. The embassy raises more money than you can even use. But all that money is sent back to Liberia. Basically, the government is saying, the money you raise, send it to us. Then we will look for money and send it back to you. It is the backwardness of the situation that is so telling. Okay? That is so telling. And then we look at the embassy and we're like, oh, but the embassy did it. So let's put together and go, I will not, not only will I not go there, I will not respect anybody that go there to go clean it. Okay? I won't respect anybody. No. We don't need that. We don't need it. If we actually needed it, look, if money was being spent the right way, and we said, look, my people, the money just can't go everywhere, I'll be the fuck person. What I learned is that the upkeep of the embassy is $1,600 a month. Like, how many Liberian people to put that money together and say, look, we'll commit to the next 6 months?
What does that, Mikey? What does that include?
Huh?
Guys, we're running out of time. Let's wrap it up.
Car insurance. Do you know that the Liberian must say the car is out of insurance? The car does not have insurance.
It's a caddy, right? I think it's a Cadillac.
Yes, it's a Cadillac. It does not have insurance because no money to pay the car insurance. So the car is parked because they put it on the road at different thing. But that's what I'm talking about. It comes down to leadership. It comes down to leadership. Look, now tell them a girl cannot come to America and pledge to EULA $300,000 and then the embassy dirty. Like, where are we going? Where are we going? Okay? The president needs to start. It will flow down. It will naturally flow down. And that's where I rest. That's why I rest my case at the feet of the Liberian president, Dr. George Manning Weah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's easier. To me, the ambassador, the Liberian ambassador to the U.S. is inept. He is somebody that needs to go. I was here by Brian Mice, my senator, my representative here, the U.S. representative. You will not be surprised that on a given day, because they have these scheduled to cut your grass twice a week, twice a month during the rainy season and all of that. When the scheduled time is not there and the grass is grown, don't be surprised that a day you come and you see the congressman cutting his own grass. When you ask him what he will say, it represents me. This is my district. It represents me until the long guys can come because they're on schedule. I would not allow my disagreement with the Biden government because they are Democrat and I'm a Republican, means I'm going to allow my congressional district to be dirty and nasty because I disagree with it. So I don't agree with that. I think the ambassador there can rally the Liberian community. There are people there who will cut that grass for the promotional material to say, I cut the grass at the Liberian embassy, and that is a kudos. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Mr. Eastman, thank you very much. Mr. Padmore, Mr. Tule, let's do this again next week, Saturday. Same time, we're running out of time. As usual, we say, whether you are opposition or in position, we are all Liberians. And let us go out and celebrate our country, love for our country, love for ourselves. And let's celebrate Liberia. We are all one Liberian. We are all one, my people. We are all one. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much and God bless.
God bless.
We are Liberians.